everybody. It's your friend Frank. And last week I got to call up C-SPAN and talk to David Rothkopf, protege of Henry Kissinger, former head of Kissinger and Associates, Carnegie Endowment member, and now the CEO and editor of Foreign Policy, the Council on Foreign Relations Journal. They are the American branch of the Royal Institute for International Affairs based out of London. And I asked him to define for me New World Order, since his boss, Henry Kissinger, and many others have gone around lately even talking about this. I wanted him to define the term for me and to tell me how close they were to achieving it. So let's listen to David Rothkopf.
That is what you write about in your new book, National Insecurity, American Leadership in the Age of Fear. It was featured as the cover story for Foreign Policy magazine recently, the September-October edition of that. Can Obama save himself? Let's go to Frank in Largo, Florida, an independent. Hi, Frank.
Good morning.
Morning. Go ahead with your question or comment.
I have a question and a brief follow-up, if I may. Mr. Rothkopf, I've been wanting to speak to you since 2008 when your book Superclass came out, in which you described how a world of 6 billion people is effectively controlled or governed by about 6,000 superclass, or a power elite, if you will. And as a protege of Henry Kissinger, you know, he's on CNBC and Charlie Rose always talking about this term called a New World Order. Secretary of State Kerry and Vice President Joe Biden recently have also used this term. What I'd like to ask you is, how would you define this thing that's called a New World Order, and how close are you to achieving this? And then a brief follow-up after Mr. Rothkopf answers, if I may.
You know, it's a very dangerous business, writing a book in which you address fears that conspiracy theorists have, because they immediately look at it and say, well, see, this confirms my theory. Right? But when I wrote Superclass, while I acknowledged that wealth is hugely disproportionately allocated in our society and globally, and this leads to a huge disproportionate allocation of power, the reality is that those few who have the most power, you know, they're not working in some coordinated way. There's no sort of backroom committee. It's not sort of the Rothschilds plus the Illuminati plus the World Jewish Conspiracy sort of cooking up what happens in the world. Because if it was, the world would be a different place. There is no New World Order in the sense of some organized progress toward the goal. In fact, if you look at the world today, there's a lot of chaos and disorder. What Henry Kissinger means when he talks about a New World Order is a new ordering among the powers in the world, that the United States is now joined by China as the great powers of this age, that there are emerging regional powers, that the Europeans have been weakened by their inability to have a coherent foreign policy and by economic problems below, and that we, as we sort of look at how to make our way in the world as the United States, need to find a way to you know, manage these power relationships that countries have done in the past in order to achieve our national interests. Now, is it a problem that so much wealth is concentrated in the hands of so few people, that hundreds or thousands of people have wealth equivalent to that of the bottom, you know, half of the population of the earth? Of course it's a problem. It's a gigantic problem. It's a social failure. It's an economic failure. It's a political failure. It's something that needs to be addressed. But, you know, I think if we're going to have an intelligent conversation, we have to be able to view inequality, view disproportionate allocation of power, and start addressing the root causes of that without getting into the kind of cloud cuckoo land conspiracy theories that are comforting but completely wrong.
Frank, can I get a quick follow-up from you so I can get some other voices in?
Yes, please. Mr. Rothkopf, thank you for that. And I'd like to give you my definition of that term. It's a transhumanist, neo-feudalistic, dehumanizing system of control. And you, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, Mr. Kissinger, you're not going to get your New World Order.
Okay, Frank, I think we know where you're going with that, and David Rothkopf addressed it. So let's move on.
Okay, so I wasn't going to get anywhere debating him. I wanted to send him a message. You may agree or disagree with what I said there. Feel free to comment down below. That's fine. But here's Henry Kissinger on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange talking about the same thing in relation to Obama and his task that he has in this world.
Will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. There isn't a crisis.
It's a great opportunity. It isn't such a crisis. Here's John Kerry at his confirmation hearing for Secretary of State, referencing Kissinger.
With the end of the Cold War, Henry Kissinger pointed out in his superb book on diplomacy, he said, "None of the most important countries which must build a new world order have had any experience with the multi-state system that is emerging. Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. Nor has any previous order had to combine the attributes of the historic balance of power system with global democratic opinion and the exploding technology of the contemporary period."
We also have Joe Biden, several areas recently talking about this. Here's the one.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
And he also wrote in the Wall Street Journal back in the 80s the article, "How I Learned to Love the New World Order." So he's been on this for a long time. And as far as being a conspiracy theorist, that's what the CIA came up with in their document 1035-960 to bat away criticism of the Warren Report. They said, just call these people conspiracy theorists, link them with the communists, and they won't bother us. So I'll leave all the links to all this down below, and feel free to comment and let me know what you think. Thanks.